know. So it was really nice having family. This is when people tell you, family is everything, right?
Yeah.
Family comes first.
Sure.
Family and close friends, right? And it's the truth.
Absolutely.
Because the people you turn to when you experience things like this in life, and knowing how long we live, you turn to your family.
Oh, 100%, man.
So that's where
everybody can be there for you in times for good, but it's who's there for you in that hospital room, right? That's,
no,
you saw who really loves you at that point in time.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no, my mom was great. She would bring a Starbucks coffee to me every morning and make sure that she was there before I even woke up,
Right.
And there at the end of the day too, to make sure that I was going to sleep with good thoughts and good positive thoughts every day.
Yeah.
And so that's when I transitioned and made it into Parkwood, and she was there every day. And then I had friends and so many people just keep showing up every day. It became a very nice thing, and it was very helpful. It was very helpful that a lot of friends started showing up in hospital.
Right.
And so that's where, I started getting into rehabilitation.
Yeah.
So here I am laying in bed looking down. I'm missing half a leg. I have very little mobility because it's all new. It's a new experience.
Right.
I feel like, you feel scared.
Yeah.
Because they would have to actually hoist me out of bed to put me in a wheelchair and use a lift and everything like that. And even getting into this safe lift in this hoist, I was still nervous and scared to fall, and I didn't know what was going on, and things changed, right? Things have changed, and so it was such an experience, and to put me in a wheelchair, and then I'm afraid in the wheelchair to fall out, and then looking down and trying so hard to move things. The whole time I was there, I'm trying to move toes, I'm trying to move my foot, I'm trying to move anything.
Right.
And so they did this test. They did a test, what's called an Asia test. So it's spelled Asia, and it's the American Spinal Cord Injury Association.
Yeah.
And it's a scale that they use to measure a spinal cord injury. So a physiotherapist came in, or I believe it was a nurse initially, and what they do is a cotton swab and pinprick. So they're looking for sensation, and so with light touch, and they're looking for sharp as well too.
Right.
And unfortunately, I didn't show any of those signs.
Right.
I had nothing below my injury. It was just dead weight. There was no sensation and no movement. And so it was this where the spinal cord injury was. And so I started going through rehabilitation. And so basically in Parkwood. Parkwood has some amazing, wonderful therapists, and just the nursing staff. It was my home for 3 months. I lived there. It was my home, and the nurses got to know me, and things became very personable. And so that's where I call it my home, because I lived there for 3 months.
Sure.
And so that whole time I'm being dragged from upstairs to downstairs into the physio gym, and I'm being stretched out. The first time I sat up, I almost passed out because I hadn't sitting up. I've been laying in a bed for weeks. So the first time sitting upright and being held upright, I almost passed out. Just the blood rush and everything. Just the whole change. And so then family kept visiting, and then it was just all encouragement. It was all the positive stuff. And older brother showing me a video of a guy that made it through. And he's going on to do great things and back on his feet, and and everyone just coming in and just putting up the good fight, and just coming in with with smiles on their faces and this and that. And so that's where it was tough. It was tough and that's where family was very great on keeping their emotions aside from my emotions.
Right.
And so that's where I do remember. I remember when my little brother came in to visit me for a weekend, and he wanted to come in with a smile on his face and positivity and encouragement.
Right.
And he came in to give me a hug and to hang out for me for the weekend, and it only took seconds, and he just started crying, and so it hurt me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It hurt me because I wanted to show everyone how tough I was, and that I was okay.
Sure.
That I'm going to be okay, and I'm okay, and
you couldn't do it.
Yeah, and and it was tough, because I'm laying there paralyzed.
Right.
I can't move. Life has changed. You're looking at me. I'm missing half a leg. So it was a traumatic experience for them.
Yeah.
They
for all of you,
everyone
to share.
So, but then we would get through it, right? We would get through it, and then we would enjoy our time at Parkwood, and then we started having some fun, and then we started having some fun at Parkwood. We had a lot of good laughs. There was a lot of tears that ran down my face, in the hospital, but but then I started to get my confidence and started to pick myself up again, and my personality started to come back. So it took some time, but it definitely it was definitely an experience. But the hardest thing, I think, that which now I do peer support, because I want to help people. Right. I really want to help people in the same situation because I know exactly what they're thinking. And so when I go in, I don't want to exploit emotions. When I go in to do peer support, I want to say the right thing, you know, and just to give them a little bit of hope with everything that's going on, because I lived it, you know, and I lived it. And the biggest thing I set myself up for failure was I kept telling myself that I was going to walk out of that hospital.
I saw some of the articles that you sent me, right? It said you were determined to walk out. And
I was.
And there were some pictures of you actually doing, like in a machine or something, doing some walking, right?
So I was determined to walk out of that hospital, you know, and that I was going to walk out those doors with all my therapy. And so the tough thing about that is, unfortunately, that day didn't happen.
Yeah, it's okay, buddy. You did great. You're still doing great, bud. You're still doing great. Take your time. So, at that moment in time when you realized, obviously, it's still tough for you to revisit those emotions.
Reality sets in when you leave the hospital, you know?
Yeah.
The reality set in. When you're discharged and you didn't walk out of the hospital like you told yourself you were going to. So then, you know, you get back and, you know, things are different now, and I had to find a new place that was accessible.
Right.
And, you know, start learning to live life in a wheelchair. I didn't want to accept that.
Right.
I thought I was going to walk out of the hospital, so now I'm learning to live life in a wheelchair.
Right.
You know, but an amazing thing happened though. When I was in hospital, I have some very lovely friends here in town.
Yeah.
They are so sweet to me, and they're good family friends. And the mother, she's a nurse, and she's the one, when I asked her, is there any effective treatments for spinal cord injury, she jumped all over it to find something for me.
Right.
And so she went online and researched everything. And so she came across a study.
Okay.
She came across a neural stem cell study. And it just actually got approved in Canada. Prime Minister Harper approved it at around the same time as my accident.
Really?
So that was like, oh, that's interesting. So when she came to me, she said that she told me, unfortunately, there's no effective treatments right now that we know of.
Right.
But Canada just accepted a stem cell study for spinal cord injury. Would you be willing to participate? If we send your images, you get accepted. And so I was very vulnerable at that time. I wanted anything to get out of this situation.
Right.
So I said, yeah, absolutely, I'll take it. Yeah. So sure enough, she got all my images together. She got everything. She started corresponding with one of the representations from the clinical trial here in Canada, and started getting my images over. And then sure enough, they sent all my images over to Zurich, Switzerland, because that is where Professor Armin Kurt resides out of, and that's where he is the leading investigator in spinal cord injury.
Okay.
He is the one that has developed the bioengineering approach when it comes to neurological injuries caused by trauma disease. And so he's trying to repair the central nervous system. And so this is all conducted in Switzerland. The sponsor and the company that has the patent for the cells that they're using comes from California, Stem Cells Inc.
Right.
So everything was corresponding with Stem Cells Inc. and Professor Kurt in Zurich, and sure enough, they got all of the images, and then they welcomed me down. Well, first they were originally going to send me to Calgary,
okay,
because they were getting set up in Calgary for the stem cell stuff.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking, okay, Calgary, that'll be exciting. But unfortunately, due to logistics and not being readily available to take in their first patient in Calgary at Foothills Hospital, then Switzerland said, Professor Kurt said, send the patient to Zurich, because we want to, move forward with the study.
Right.
So I thought that was going to be great.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm going to Zurich for a stem cell transplant, in the hopes that it's really going to help me.
Right.
And so sure enough, they got all my images, and they invited me down to Zurich, Switzerland. They invited me down. I got the phone call. It was before Christmas time in 2013. And so then sure enough, I was on a flight about 5 months after my accident. I was on a flight in January 2014
to go to Switzerland. Wow.
And so sure enough, they did all kinds of exams on me, all these invasive exams. They're poking me and shooting electricity through my body and doing all these exams and tests I've never even heard of. Like you hear of MRIs and X-rays, and they have this thing called CHEPS. It's contact heat evoked potentials. And it's like, well, what's that? It's a little cube that gives you, I believe it's 42 or 52 degrees of heat that signals, different cells and within the nerves, for a response for their data. And then we do the EMGs, we do the urinalysis, the blood work, physical examinations, just everything. It's a full-blown week of assessment.
Was that week? Was that tough for you? Like
it was physically tough.
I bet,
because I was from room to room to room to room. You leave as much as you lose initially a lot of your dignity with a disability like this. When I was in the hospital at Parkwood, clothes are on and off, and things aren't working. Your bladder, bowel, sexual function, things are different.
Right.
So nurses are taking care of these things, and so then going to Zurich, Switzerland, it was the same thing. You leave your dignity at the door, you go in, and now you're bouncing from room to room to room, clothes being pulled off, being poked and prodded and tested and being checked everywhere, right? So and so it was made for a very long day. I slept good at the end of the day, I'll tell you. I slept good. So then, sure enough, after all these exams, and got to enjoy some nice days before and after being the hospital visits.
So there was some enjoyment.
There was some enjoyment. They set you up. They get you in the weekend before, so you get to enjoy the entire weekend before you start your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of aggressive, invasive tests and assessments. Because it takes a lot for they're very, very precise when it comes to calculating their data. They don't want any gray area, so they have tests that the majority of the world has never seen. Like they're trying to implement new things with the technology that we have to really take a look at the central nervous system, which is very complex. And so it was a really good experience. Actually, I started acquiring some knowledge here.
Sure.
I started doing my research and trying to figure what they're doing here, and so what Professor Armin Kurt is doing. He's a neurologist and became a professor and a leading investigator on spinal cord injury, and he's doing stem cell transplants from rat studies, and now he's doing it on human patients. So what made it exciting was when I went home after doing all these assessments, I didn't take the surgery initially. It was just to be assessed to see if I met all the inclusion criteria. Well, sure enough, I went home, and that's where just before Christmas, they called me to accept me into the study. So and then they said if I'm still willing to voluntarily participate, even knowing that there's a lot of risk. They're going to open me back up. There's risk of coming out worse. There's risk of death. But knowing that I was the 9th patient of 12 in the world to do this, I asked, well, how did the other 8 patients turn out?
Of course,
They're all doing fine. So I thought, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. So I showed up in January, and so then we did all the assessments again. And then it was going to be time for surgery, So for them to cut me open and to
in the back.
And so they have a psychologist as well too. You got to make it through the psychological exam as well too. So he.
How was that?
It was interesting. Because I'm sure they had the very odd questions. And it's not to catch you, not to self-incriminate you in a lie or anything. But to get information about your personality, the way you think, and to see if this is something that you're going to be able to accept. The outcome being that there could be nothing, absolutely nothing. That this is just for research. This is a research study. This is phase 1. They're looking at safety. They want to make sure that you're not going in thinking that you're going to be walking out. And then. And that doesn't happen, and then you go into depression. So the psychologist is protecting the study, but protecting the patient as well. Absolutely,
to check their expectations.
So he asked all the questions. So at the end of all the questions and him getting to know me, he asked me, so what made he basically said, so why do you really feel you would want to do this, to participate in the study? So I said, well, you know what. I understand my situation, and I'm the type of person, from being a proud, tough guy, that I said I would take one for the team, knowing that this is for research. And so he said, you take one for the team, eh? I said, yeah, I'll take one for the team.
Is that what you're really doing, though, or did you still have hopes of kind of walking again?
You know what?
Or what were you thinking? Were you telling him what you thought he wanted to hear?
No, I said it knowing that, because I was given all the information.
And
so and then listening to the other 8 patients, I was in the hopes to receive neurological change. And for this to hopefully be a treatment, I didn't know how long it's going to take or this and that, but to be able to participate in it, it was then my pride. Knowing that I traveled all the way from Canada, being one of the first to participate in something like this, I thought, this is pretty cool, you know, like, I definitely have the, you know, the tough mind and everything,
Sure.
and confidence to be in something like this, so I want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll definitely take one for the team, is what I
Yeah.
said, because
Your new boxing weight.